And hello to day 12 of Night in the Woods, which is, I guess, really the last somewhat normal day of the game, because, the next day is pretty much a almost on rails plot line, and the day after is the epilogue. So, yeah, pretty much this is it. This is it for the end of the game, which is, um, again, rather interesting just how fast this game can go. There's only 14 kind of movements through it, uh, which. I'm not saying that in a bad way, because it's kind of nice that this game has a relatively quick pace to it. Because a game like this could potentially get drawn on for hours upon hours upon hours. I mean, if they didn't decide to do a side-scrolly type platformer type thing, I could almost see this game being done like one of those time management games, like Princess Maker 2 or something like that. Oh god. Yeah, seeing this game done as Princess Maker 2, which I haven't played. I watched a couple of videos of, well, no. I've tried playing it once, and I'm not any good at those games. So I think I killed my main character in a week, because I was like, I don't know what to do. But I've seen videos on YouTube about playing it and all that kind of stuff, so it seemed interesting. But yeah, not something that I guess I'm wired for just yet. But also, yeah, I was kind of starting to notice in last video, especially with the close-up at the Donut Wolf bathroom, and beginning to notice it a bit more here. The red highlights in May's hair seems to be, very much fading. I'm not sure if that's new, or if that's part of the character, or what. I mean, it was always very faint. It was colored a while ago, probably at the beginning of the semester, and it's been fading, more and more. Maybe it's been fading more because she's, showering regularly or the like, because based off of the dialogue we hear the next day, her depression would probably mean that, she probably didn't do much in the way of self-care. And yeah, here we get to see that May has this sort of idea of living on a farm and, living with another woman, and based off of how their relationship goes, she would be married, but it would be called common law marriage, which is just, when you live with someone for long enough, the local government says you're a couple. But yeah, I'd I'd say May's got some decent, life choices at least. And yeah, this seems to be very much confirming she is definitely very child-free. Very, very child-free. Which is good. one, I don't think she has the quite the level of maturity and responsibility to take care of small humanoids, and two, I mean, even if she did, the fact that she doesn't want to is perfectly and awesomely valid. But yeah, and the fact that I didn't go and talk to Rabies more often, I guess I missed that bits of dialogue and all that. So yeah, and speaking of stuff I missed in dialogue is, yep, your Aunt Molly actually catching you on the power lines. She doesn't seem to be too angry with you, just, tells you about all of the stuff that's going on, which is definitely a good thing, even though, yeah, it totally indicates that the well, I mean, the tattoo that's found is definitely a red herring. It means absolutely nothing, but as we hear tonight, yes, the arm was definitely left by the cult, who, yeah, I mean, aside from the arm and the kidnapping, pretty much don't appear until this point. And yep, F the cops. I'm walking on the power lines. I don't care if I lose adjectives. Sorry, not adverbs, adjectives. And yes, May is definitely probably feeling very ill, but she's a stubborn one. And of course, yes, we have to listen to Selmer's poetry. Which I think this is the final poem, because I don't think she gets one in the epilogue. She does get to do 2 poems today, which is nice. I gotta admit, Selmers would definitely be an interesting protagonist for this game if, the game decided it. Although I think she is a bit more sedentary, so you wouldn't have that much of a exploration type thing going on, but, she certainly seems to have a very interesting background, and here I'm just kind of thumbing through all of the pictures that I grabbed, just in case you wanted to pause and take a look at the artwork and not just simply, go on and Google all of the drawings, because, that's a thing that exists. Poor May. And yeah, we really don't see Miss Rosa after that 3rd conversation I think we have with her, maybe 4th. Which, yeah, leads me to believe that her ominous goodbye was a bit more permanent than she was trying to make it sound, which is sad, but I guess that sort of thing happens at that age. That, or she just doesn't want to go down into a hole anymore, which I can totally appreciate that. And a quick jaunt over to the church, see what's going on. talk to the pastor about Bruce and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you want a game with a whole lot of side plots, subplots, and ancillary stories, Night in the Woods is definitely your game, because everyone seems to be doing stuff that doesn't involve May Borowski, which, you know, is real life. I think, like myself, Pastor Kate does not really kind of believe what May is saying about Bruce going home, more just leaving here and potentially leaving this plane of existence, which would be sad as well. Man, if you base off of my commentary, I think that pretty much everyone in this game is dead. Miss Rosa, Bruce, Mr. Centello, which that's definitely a thought of mine, that he's part of the cult. And another person who I'm pretty sure is part of the cult is Mr. Twigmeyer. Yeah, you saw the quiet cut that went in and out of the doors there. There's nothing inside the church, so I just decided, you know what, let's cut that, because these videos are running pretty long as is. I mean, this is nearly an hour anyway. Anyway, yeah, here we get some, more banter between May and her mom, which is always good to see. And you get to have a nice, extra scene, which I think was added in Weird Autumn, which is the nap in the library room, which is kind of a, nice and touching addition. Adds nothing to the plot or to the character development, but at the same time sort of, adds a bit more to setting. Of course, now we get to the point on whether this is a thing that actually happens, or if this is just a dream that May is having. I mean, I'm probably leaning more towards a dream, because I couldn't imagine Grandfather Borowski, which I'm sure he has a name, but I would have to look it up. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's ever actually said. Probably is at some point. But yeah, he would probably have no real connection to the church, so I'd imagine May is just making up, unless, his spirit is literally just sort of following her around, which would be freaking exhausting, but, that's all I think. And more fun with Laurie Myers, who is definitely kind of, I've already said that she's definitely one of the characters I like, just because, she seems to be going through just as much crap as everybody else. And, the whole social anxiety and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I certainly hope she manages to get through her dream of doing more stuff with movies. Yeah. There is a part of the game that seems to be completely weird and ancillary is, yeah, everything that goes on the roofs to the left of Lori seems to just to be there. I mean, unless you're supposed to go on the power lines all the way over to the party barn and then all the way over to, Lori's side, which I guess if you weren't good at jumping, you could do, but, yeah. I mean, I'm not great at jumping, but, I'm not going to waste that much time going all the way over back and forth. And I think because I kept going, along the top lines, might have missed some stuff for the Telesoft, building, but I think we get most, if not all, of the conversation there. And we're going to hold off on the park trip for just a moment as we continue to deal with everything in Possum Springs. I wonder how fast this game would actually go if you, decided not to do all sorts of side stuff. I'm guessing the game would still probably be about like 8 or 9 hours or so. I know when I did Bee's Run for like my second Let's Play playthrough, that was relatively straightforward, although I did most of the germ side stuff at that point, because I did all the Lorium stuff prior to that. And yep, see, now May can do actually, like, good stuff rather than, just be a destructive and terrible person. I think may have been the pre-Weird Autumn update that they were trying to make the saxophonist a woman, but doesn't quite seem so this time. And yeah, since I got off the top, I decided to go up to the news guy in the old-fashioned way. But yeah, so many people have so much little things of dialogue, which is just kind of fun and fascinating, trying to figure out everything that's going on in the world. Which, yes. The unfortunate end of the relationship between the Smelters fans, which are kind of, a bit sad. At least they managed to talk a little bit, but, hopefully they'll be able to open up to other people and, learn to get in touch with themselves and all that kind of stuff, which I understand some people think, why should people actually do this? Well, because you'll actually live longer and healthier and not, kind of hate yourself totally. And yes, Well, yesterday was the final hangout with Lori. This is the final hangout with Germ, where we get to go to Germ's house, which is... So, as we can see, Germ also keeps his fingers on the pulse of current events and all that kind of stuff. And, yep. Actually, it's kind of funny how Germ is one of the few people in this game that aren't the main trio. Well, actually, no, because even Angus and Greg kind of treat May as a bit of a kid. Germ seems to be one of the few people that treats May as somewhat of a true peer. Yeah, all of this is relatively ominous. Yeah, I guess this is definitely a scene that, the creators of the game really wanted to put into this game, and they managed to definitely get it hooked up in the, complete edition, the Weird Autumn edition. But yeah, here's a yeah, this is definitely one of the creepier aspects of the game, which is kind of cool, but yeah, now we get to the point of whether, Germ's grandmother is a, sarcastic person who's trying to, make fun of May, or if she actually does have future sight. Of course, I guess that could be part of a lot of things in this game, is whether things that go on are actually part of the supernatural or are simply just coincidence or stuff that's scientifically proven. It's just we don't have the information to do so, at least from May's perspective. But I guess that's yeah, that's a little creepy. Yeah, Germ certainly has a lot of interesting phrases. And this is a fun little mini game, even though it's pretty much completely pointless. And I forgot. I think he is definitely one of the people who works on the place just next to May's house. I can only really remember the fox holding the sign, because I think everyone else is, pretty much obscured or in the background. So I guess, yeah, he's right. He's invisible. And yeah, since for some reason the jump button is connected to the continue dialogue function, yeah, sometimes this conversation sort of goes really, really weird. I guess that makes sense. It's supposed to give you this feeling that, May can barely hear the conversation because, she's on a freaking trampoline. And see, German's a good boy. And I think based off of this, I would say he probably has one heck of a crush on May, but he probably doesn't know exactly how to sort of articulate it, because, yeah, he definitely seems to have some social issues. But, certainly harmless. Certainly someone who seems to be someone who wants to be around and all that kind of stuff, which is all good things. And now we get to finally head off to the sort of final evening of Night in the Woods. But first, go and talk with Greg. Because you gotta talk with Greg. Because I've talked to pretty much everybody else. Yeah, poor Greg. Boredom supreme. Unfortunately, he won't be there forever, May. Man, I hope when he goes for a job over in Bright Harbor, no one, contacts the Snack Falcon. That would probably end relatively poorly. Yeah, pretty poorly indeed. But yeah, it's actually kind of nice. They bring up the whole fact that you get 2 nights with the car in a row in this. So good job making flags in the system that lets you do that. So yes, this game is definitely a well-designed game. I'm sure that would be a very cool podcast. Admittedly, I'm not much of a podcast listener. I did a bit in my college years, but that's because I had a hour and 15-minute bus ride from where I was to where the the campus was, which is a long bus ride, but at least I didn't have to change vehicles or anything like that. It was like a straight shot, and because I was a student, I got a free bus pass, so hey, you know what? That just means I had like an hour and a half, or an hour and 15 minutes before school to just sort of psych myself up and all of that. But yeah, all sorts of good old-fashioned kind of stuff there. I have a feeling that the reason why Angus kept doing cross country is it's a sport that requires you to leave the house very early in the morning and probably get home very late in the evening. And based off of Angus's home life, the less amount of time spent at home, the better. Because definitely poor Angus. He's had a rough time of things. But it's good that he's, you know, in a place that seems to be more supportive of him. Or at least, you know, not around his folks. Yeah, I imagine Angus is probably a cool person to hang around, which is why in Bee's storyline she says Angus is really sort of the hub upon which the, you know, friend dynamic actually revolves around, because Bee doesn't really want to hang out with Angus, Bee doesn't want to hang out with Greg, but since Greg is in a relationship with Angus, they're kind of a package deal. And then there's May, who's friends with Greg, and sort of ex-friends, well, maybe not ex-friends, but estranged friends with Bee, but, you know. Yep, apparently she didn't get to know Angus all that well. I can figure that, or I can understand that. He seems to be someone who probably keeps to himself a whole lot. But yeah, now that we get to this point, we get to examine the fruits of our labor of running around, you know, Possum Springs and tripping off all of those little windmill things, which certainly a cool and interesting idea. Yeah, it's nice that, you know, they didn't just suddenly jump him from the bottom of the tower to the top. And also nice that they allowed you to grab all of the letters before, you know, coming up. I could almost see that Angus probably tried to say that in an Ewan McGregor voice, just, you know, making a Star Wars reference, because he also seems like a great big nerd. I have the high ground. Yeah, some people are really into certain things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got nothing either. Yep. It is certainly a very kind of melancholy thing going on there, but I guess that's sort of life in general. Um, and then, yeah, we get to this point, which I think is the side quest that I've done the most, because, yeah, there's only one time you get to hang out with Angus, and this is it. So, you know, 'tis fun to find out more about your friends. Yeah, I guess, but, you know, just because something isn't directly spooky doesn't mean that things can't be indirectly spooky, if that makes any sense. And then we get to this mini game, which seems to be a, you know, based off of the first supplemental game that was released, Longest Night, where you go and find a whole bunch of constellations in the night sky. Which, yep, based off of that supplemental, that was something that didn't actually happen, even though May is doing her best to say that it did. So her dissociative disorder seems to, you know, make her question about events that actually did and did not happen. Telescopes are indeed cool. Ah, yes. That's the problem about this mini game, is you're not sure which stars are supposed to actually line up, so I think it's less like Longest Night. I don't think each stars make their own, you know, chime, but then again, you only have to look for 4 of the constellations, so yeah. Ah, yes, the ever-straining relationship of the Borowski family. Poor folks. And yes, Yeah, where I start messing up with just about everything. But I think eventually I get the whale set up. Yeah, I guess it is kind of dumb. I'm not really good at finding constellations in the night sky either. I don't know. I guess it's not something I learned to memorize, but I mean, I'm pretty good at picking out, the big ones like Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, because the dippers, help that a whole lot. And pretty good at spotting Orion, but that's because the belt makes that really easy. Other than that, not exactly able to pick out the other ones like, Pegasus. I think there is a Cassiopeia. Or was that just Clash of the Titans? It's been a while since I've seen that movie. It's a good movie, the original one with, all the Ray Harryhausen special effects. So what am I talking about again? Oh yes, this mini game, which is yeah. Yes, the big sort of reveal about the past of, Angus, which is really, really terrible. Yeah, poor Angus. I guess that would explain why he's very quiet and polite. He's probably using that as a defensive measure, hoping that if he doesn't offend the people, they won't, harm him or anything like that. But yeah, I'm certainly hoping that yep. Yeah, May does indeed have experience with that. Yeah, I guess, but that doesn't mean, just because some people have it worse doesn't mean that the stuff you go through is any less important. Which is, why I never really understood the notion of when someone's saying to you that they're having a bad time, other people will immediately respond with like, well, over in, such and such place, people are, in even worse conditions. And I guess that's supposed to help you, make you more thankful about the things you have, but to me it's just like, telling me, oh god, I can't handle even this, so, I must be even that much worse of a person than the rest of it. But, yeah, I guess that's just me being, well, weird. And I will have never denied being not weird. That is definitely for sure. Oh. Yeah. I wonder how Angus managed to perceive ID coming by. ID, which is the, person in the cloak. I guess, either maybe a reflection in his glasses, or just he was looking in that direction for a bit. Yeah, just, quietly observing someone as they're talking to you is definitely more than a little hostile. It's certainly an interesting phrase that Angus pulls out, nothing on heaven or earth can stop me, especially since, we've just had this huge conversation about his lack of faith, so I'm guessing he's probably quoting, in-universe anime or video game or something like that. Because, as we heard early on, Angus seems to either watch or play some version of Sword Art Online that exists within this universe. And so, yeah, in this sequence, if you're with B or Angus, yeah, you're in a car and May's headache starts occurring, so I'm going to have to go back to one of my save games and see if I can't figure out what happens if this happens while you're with Greg, because, yeah, there is no car. There's a bike. So that sequence would be kind of interesting, I'd like to think. Yep. Yeah, just because they don't believe that there's, a ghost doesn't mean that, as B just said, something is probably happening. Actually, yeah, this is a sequence that, I guess if you want to be one of those weird people that like to poke at something, and call them plot holes and the like, why May seems to know exactly where to go to get to the mine. It's kind of a bizarre, addition to everything. Yeah, I think it would have been a bit better if there was at least some rationale of why May knows to head to the old mine. And yeah, that is certainly a very kind of interesting aspect. We don't really get an indication during her backstory or her run or anything else that B is at all religious. So yeah, the whole praying thing is kind of, you know, bizarrely out of left field, but I think that's supposed to be the case. So, you know, as part of the narrative. Yeah, I'm not sure what's freaking May out, but, you know, I guess it's sort of part of the whole fact that, yeah, she definitely has some issues. But yeah, now we get to the big point of, you know, finding the mine and first getting to figure out about the crazy cult of killer conservative uncles, I think is what May calls them eventually. At least to Lori. I'm not sure what they mean by juice. Is that was supposed to be like a chloroform? But yeah, looks like Lerv is the one that left the arm. And I guess his leg is caught underneath that rock. Not exactly sure how that happened, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a little bit ominous. Yeah, you know, they're just trying to murder you. Don't need to guilt trip them. But yeah, that's definitely gonna leave a mark. And yeah, sudden amputation would probably make him just a quibbling pile of, you know, pain and screaming. I'm guessing they're probably just going to chuck him into the hole since it's a good place to drop a body. And yeah, someone knows May even by her voice, and they and all that. And yes, we have the chase scene, which I'll admit is very fascinating. It's kind of fun. You feel like you're involved with something, and even though you can like not do anything. one thing I like to do